Series 4, Burnout. Episode 6, You Didn't Break, You Ran Empty. Throughout this series, we have talked about people who gave everything. The woman who did everything for everyone and had nothing left for herself. The man who didn't know who he was outside of his work. The couple who loved each other and had nothing left to give. The brain that couldn't switch off. They all had one thing in common. They hadn't broken. They had run empty. And there is an enormous difference between the two. If you recognized yourself in any of them, this episode is for you. Watch to the end. You'll understand how to refill. There is a moment that everyone who has been through burnout describes in almost the same way. Not the moment they collapsed, but the moment they realized they had run empty. For some, it came on the edge of the bed on a Monday morning when they couldn't get up. For others, in the work car park, hands on the steering wheel, eyes on nothing. For others, on the bathroom floor, unable to stand. For others, in the middle of a meeting, when the mind went suddenly blank. Different moments, the same signal, their body and mind had sent the bill. And that bill, however painful, was the first step towards something they hadn't had in a long time: contact with themselves. What burnout really is. We have talked in this series about burnout in women, in men, in relationships, in the digital world. But there is a common denominator we haven't named directly until now. Erich Fromm wrote that modern man has made the most dangerous confusion possible. He has confused being with doing. Burnout is the consequence of that confusion. It is not a disorder of work. It is a disorder of identity. The person in burnout doesn't know how to exist without producing. Doesn't know how to be without doing, doesn't know how to rest without feeling guilty, doesn't know how to receive without giving. And this inability to simply be is the root from which every form of burnout we have described grows. Andrew Solomon wrote that the greatest courage is not to endure, it is to stop and to discover that there is something there inside you beyond everything you do, that you exist. Simply exist. And that this is enough. Diana is 46 years old, a specialist doctor, 2 divorces, 3 children, a brilliant career. She came to therapy after fainting in her own consulting room one Thursday. Full investigations. Everything medically perfect. I simply ran out of power, she told her therapist. First session, she cried for 40 minutes without saying a word. Second session, she said, I don't know who I am outside of Dr. Diana. I don't know what I enjoy. I don't know what makes me happy. I don't know if I've ever truly been happy. Her therapist asked, When did you last sleep without setting an alarm? Diana thought. University? Maybe. And when did you last eat without doing something else at the same time? Another silence. And when did you last spend time with yourself? No phone, no patients, no children, no obligations? Just you? Diana closed her eyes. I can't remember, she said. Then, said her therapist, that is where we begin. Not from the career, not from the relationships, not from the children, from Diana. Concrete steps. How do you refill after burnout? Not with a holiday, not with a weekend away, not by sleeping more for a week, but through a fundamental shift in your relationship with yourself. First, recognition. You are not lazy. You are not weak. You are not inadequate. You are empty, and there is an enormous difference. Second, professional help. Therapy is not for the weak. It is for those brave enough to look inward. Third, boundaries. Not as punishment for others, as an act of love for yourself. No is a complete sentence. Fourth, rediscovering yourself. What did you love before you became this busy? What made you lose track of time? Find that thing, however small, however forgotten. Fifth, patience. Burnout was built over years. It doesn't heal in weeks. Ancient wisdom tells us. One who knows the limits of their activity and does not approach danger will live a long time. Knowing your own limits is not weakness. It is the highest form of wisdom. Those who came through, Rachel, the manager from the first episode, now works 4 focused hours a day instead of 12 hollow ones. I discovered I produce more in 4 present hours than in 12 empty ones, she said. Alex, the sales director who didn't know what made him happy. Photographs every Saturday morning. I rediscovered that I exist, even when I'm producing nothing, he said. Diana, the doctor who fainted in her consulting room, started setting her alarm 1 hour later, 1 hour for herself. Every morning, before anyone else. The first time I felt guilty, she said. The second time, less. By the 10th time, I realized that hour makes me a better doctor, a better mother, and a more complete person. Not stories about exceptional people. Stories about ordinary people who chose, in their hardest moment, not to give up on themselves. We have traveled a long road together in this series. We talked about burnout, not as a trend or a modern indulgence, but as the consequence of a way of living in which doing has replaced being, in which a person's worth has become equal to their productivity, in which rest has become guilt and limits have become weakness. And we talked about the road back. Not spectacular, not dramatic. 1 hour for yourself every morning. A boundary spoken with gentleness and firmness. A camera bought after 20 years. A book read without a phone nearby. A coffee drunk without doing anything else at the same time. Small things, but things that are yours. Fromm wrote that happiness is not a state of grace that falls from the sky. It is the consequence of productive inner activity, not of work, of inner life. If this series has helped you, or if someone you love recognizes themselves in any of its episodes, like this video and help someone else find it. You didn't break, you ran empty, and you can be refilled. Subscribe, a new series is coming. Equally important, equally human. Tell us in the comments which episode in this series spoke to you most. See you at Series 5.